Okay, so welcome everybody. This is a joint meeting of Lower Hudson Group of Sierra Club and Mid Hudson Group of Sierra Club. Welcome. We know we have people from around the state, and welcome to everybody. Just for the local people, just want to mention that Lower Hudson Group includes Rockland, Westchester, Putnam, parts of Orange County. Mid Hudson includes Ulster, Dutchess, parts of Columbia, Greene, Delaware, and Orange County. Just trying to connect you with your group if you're on and you're from those areas. Our focus is mostly in Lower Hudson Group is mostly on the climate crisis and other environmental issues such as toxic chemicals and protecting habitat and loss of biodiversity. We also support local protests on issues such as voting rights and freedom of speech. Our public meetings are monthly, usually on the third Monday of the month. Our next meeting is actually on a Thursday. It's the third Monday of the month, and I'm sorry, the second Monday, Thursday, March 12th, and that was in order to accommodate the speaker. He will be speaking about the very steep decline in birds, as much as 50% decline in the number of birds in North America over the last 50 years, which is kind of shocking. This is a continuation of our ongoing series on the crisis of extinction. So please save the date, March 12th. So let's get started. Before we start, Sarah and Tom, did you want to say just a quick word as the chairs of Lower Hudson Group and Mid Hudson?
Now I'm looking forward to hearing Roger.
Okay. Tom? Okay, okay.
Same here.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's get started. We ask you to stay muted during Roger Downs' talk. Please hold your questions to the end. You can unmute at that point or put your questions in the chat and we'll scoop them up as Roger speaks. So I just want to introduce Roger Downs to you. Roger is the excellent conservation director for Sierra Club's Atlantic chapter, which is the statewide chapter. Roger?
Thank you, Peggy. I'm really thrilled and so delighted you invited me to this joint meeting of the Mid Hudson and Lower Hudson Sierra Club groups. I know there's great interest and concern with the progress New York is making with our climate goals, and I will attempt this evening to give you a clearer picture of the political landscape as we tackle the unfolding policy. Uh, I just want to say personally, today is my 18th anniversary working for the Sierra Club, and it has been a privilege to work for you all and alongside all the incredible volunteers that make up this organization. While I try to keep track of every environmental policy in the state, much of my job ends up working the political angles of why those policies fail. And for those of us that get wrapped up in politics, it's often easy to lose sight of the real consequences. It's so easy for climate change to live in the abstract. So forgive me, because I know you're all knowledgeable climate warriors. I would like to take a minute and ground this discussion in truly what is at stake. We often need to remind ourselves that we are hurtling towards catastrophe. The Paris Climate Accords wisely set the global temperature limit to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius rise if we are to avoid irreversible and devastating feedback loops of natural carbon emissions. Right now, the world is on a rapid trajectory to exceed 2 degrees Celsius of global warming, with estimates that suggest this threshold will be crossed sometime between 2030 and 2050, which is in the range of which our climate law was envisioned. New York is the 10th largest economy in the world, and if we act boldly, others will follow. If we continue to ignore our laws and obligations, we could see the permanent melting of the Greenland and West Antarctic ice sheets, which are experiencing accelerated melting, threatening to eventually raise sea levels by several meters. And I can imagine so many of you in your communities will be underwater, especially lower Manhattan. I mean, warming waters are wreaking havoc upon ocean circulation, which could cause dramatic shifts in global weather patterns and sharply cool Europe while bringing unbearable heat to other regions. I mean, the polar vortex wobble we experienced this winter may just be a symptom of those changes. Tropical rainforests globally are nearing tipping points where we are seeing rapid transition into savanna and desert due to deforestation and warming, reducing its carbon storage capacity. It is now projected that 50% of all marine life will face extinction by 2050. I mean, that's by the time my kids are my age. Coral reefs will cease to exist globally by that time because of increasing ocean acidification and bleaching. But most alarmingly, warming Antarctic permafrost is releasing more and more stored methane and carbon, creating a feedback loop that causes more warming. And with these accelerated natural emissions, it cannot stop once it starts. And with the next slide, you can see that the 10 hottest years in recorded uh,
Roger,
history
Yeah.
have
you're
all
not
occurred.
sharing.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Peggy has
You,
to
I
share.
can't
I
see
didn't
your
start to
slide.
share. I didn't start to share yet. So let me
Oh,
do.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
I
So
was waiting for you to tell me to share. So
Oh, okay. We can share. Let's share.
let's,
okay,
on the slide with the graph, I think that's
let me
Let's start
just.
with the slide with the graph if we can do that. Anyway, the 10 hottest years in recorded history have all happened within the last decade, confirming that the
Wait,
global
let me
warming
just
is
confirm.
accelerating.
Let me just confirm that people are
All right.
seeing this
No,
correctly.
Yeah, sure.
Can you see this clearly?
this,
yeah.
you have the Zoom is requesting bypass in the middle of the screen. Wait a minute, I want to try
Oh,
something.
Zoom is requesting
I wonder
to
if
allow your screen. Should I say allow?
I think so.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
And then make it a
Okay.
slideshow.
should be, it should be full screen if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, just give me 1 second.
I'll give you two. Absolutely.
I'm
God, you
sorry.
asked.
I made a poor assumption.
No,
No,
you're
no,
fine.
no. Let me minimize this so I think I can do that. And then I can maximize this, hopefully. Um,
Oh, what it's down here.
I think you need to be looking at what's on the left-hand side, at the top.
this is a PDF, so it's not going to allow me to, so
I mean, you
what I
could
can
you
do
could
is, oh, I'm sorry. So this was the slide that you wanted.
it's okay, but you can also I guess use the Google Doc.
But I have it open if you want to let me share my screen. Oh, you got it. But I have
Yeah,
it full screen.
Yeah, that's what we want, full screen. Then you
okay,
could see the print better. Hello, Martha Robertson.
okay.
Hi,
So
Barbara.
Gail, do you want to share? Go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Oh,
I probably need
sharing
to
is
make you
not turned
co-host.
on. Okay, I just sent the request to share.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry. I'm
okay.
sorry, Roger. I was
Oh,
waiting
it's fine.
you
It's
to, yeah, and I thought, oh, that'll be easier in the PDF, but
That's beautiful.
This
okay, so now the
it's
screen, yeah,
beautiful and
that's
it's
okay.
terrifying, isn't it? So
is
anyway, I always want to make sure we are at least grounded in that this is it's essential we get this right because the outcome, the inaction is catastrophic. Um, so I think we can go to the next slide, if that's
this
all right.
with words now?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think,
okay.
and I apologize, there's just going to be a lot of words,
It's good.
but I mean, as you all know, the New York State Legislature originally understood the gravities, the gravity of these human civilization ending threats, and in 2019 enacted the Climate and Community Protection Act, which commits New York State to the goals of, and I'm sure you all know this, but let's review because I think it'll be helpful in looking at where we're falling short. An 85% reduction in greenhouse gases from 1990 levels by 2050. And there's sort of an aspirational, 100% carbon neutrality implied there. There's a 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, which is only 4 years away. An emissions-free electric grid by 2040 with 70% renewables by 2030. And the climate law also had a lot of good language that protected environmental justice communities by putting restrictions on co-pollutants and offsets so that someone couldn't buy a credit somewhere and then pollute in a disadvantaged community somewhere else. And then through the scoping process, which was a multi-year process, the Climate Action Council recommended hundreds of specific actions and future legislative changes that would be necessary to accomplish these goals. And certainly the legislature has stepped up, and we've passed some important bills to advance the CLCPA. One component of the CLCPA was that regulations that made enacting and operationalizing the climate law, regulations had to be completed by the beginning of 2024. Let's go to the next slide. So how are we doing on these goals? It's 2026. Uh, the CLCPA regulations, as I said, were supposed to be released by 2024, and no regulations have been promulgated till date, including the Cap and Invest program. And we'll talk about this a little more, but Sierra Club through Earth Justice and with Citizen Action and a number of other groups sued DEC to put forward the regulations, and we won at the Supreme Court level, and right now it's being appealed. Um, but I think it's really important that we have a program that helps finance the transition. Looking at the goal of 70% renewable energy by 2030 and 100% zero emissions electric grid by 2040, kind of reveals that we're far below that threshold. I mean, we still have 4 years to catch up, but currently we are at 26% renewable energy, and predominantly that's hydropower. We have 9% solar on a very good day and 5% wind. Um, 40% emissions free together, but that includes nuclear, um, which we don't necessarily regard as part of renewable energy, but certainly CLCPA defines it as part of the emissions-free grid. So we're well below that. We have an established goal through a memorandum of understanding with a number of states that we would have 3 million electric vehicles on New York roadways by 2030. Right now, we're just over 300,000 on New York roadways. That's a tenth of where we should be in just 4 years. Um, Now, I have to say the adoption has been accelerating rapidly. I think over 100,000 vehicles were purchased in New York last year, but we certainly have to do a lot better to get there. And then the goal of 40% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 from 1990 levels, we're only 14%, of the way there. We're only at a 14% reduction. So we have a lot of catching up to do. Um, and the Hochul administration gives a lot of reasons for falling short of our climate commitments, and some of them are really understandable. A lot of the states' non-compliance with the climate law is based upon, well, this isn't as understandable. Fears from the governor's office that the transition to a carbon-free future would be too unaffordable, and as they said in their lawsuit, they felt it was infeasible, and they were really afraid of yellow vest type revolts like the ones we've seen in Paris over a few years ago, when citizens sort of correlated soaring energy prices with climate policies. They're deathly afraid that that's going to happen here. They cite the distraction of a global pandemic, and I think it's legitimate to say that for at least a year, a significant amount of DEC staff resources went into COVID response at testing and vaccination centers, as well as relief materials distributions and assistance with health department directives. We certainly appreciate all the sacrifice DEC employees went through, but clearly it came at the expense of advancing climate regulations and policies. And the pandemic certainly led to a global supply chain of disruptions, certainly for renewable energy components, but other things that are essential to the clean energy economy. You know, certainly it's cited often that we haven't achieved these goals because there's a ton of NIMBY opposition to land-based wind and solar. Some of that has been overcome through the creation of the Office of Renewable Energy Siting, that largely supersedes home rule, has its own environmental review process, and I think it's gotten some pretty good, responsibly sited large-scale solar projects down, but we're simply not building quick enough, and we still have resistance to smaller distributed solar and battery storage siting. And certainly battery storage is going to be the big issue coming up. And certainly in the Hudson Valley, there are a lot of sites that have been proposed. And I think we have to step up and make sure, as long as they're responsibly cited, we should be supporting them. Um, the governor also cites transmission constraints and obstacles to new lines, even as the Public Service Commission seems to, put constraints on transmission proposed to do just that, bring renewable energy, especially to New York City. Um, but this is something we're going to have to work through in the coming years. There's also something that, we didn't conceive of when the climate law was written, at least not to the extent that we're feeling the pressure now, but uh, pressure on the grid from artificial intelligence and data centers, cryptocurrency mines. This will be a growing issue, certainly in the coming year, but there are estimates that it could certainly grow to have the same kind of impacts that, say, the building sector, the transportation sector have in terms of their strain on the grid. And we really have to get to the bottom of this. And then, I think the other big pinnacle reason Hochul cites that they haven't been able to comply with the climate law is the Trump administration obstruction. And certainly, I think there's some legitimacy there, although he has only been president for less than a year of the enactment of the climate law. So, um, you know, certainly the things that have been suppressing renewable energy development, tariffs have raised the prices on, solar panels and wind energy components. Um, if indeed we are allowed to build wind energy and through, his Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, there's been mass revocation of offshore wind energy permits, not only in New York, but other states. We've certainly pushed back with lawsuits and have won on many, but it has been incredibly disruptive. And it's really difficult to convince other wind developers to come in knowing that their permits could get pulled at any point during construction on the whim of the Trump administration. Biden's IRA subsidies for climate infrastructure were incredibly important in driving all sorts of things like the building of community solar, and certainly charging stations for electric vehicles, efficiency programs, uh, you know, building more heat pumps and geothermal systems in New York homes. All that has been erased, and I think that was a big blow to our climate progress. Certainly, ending of EV rebates and subsidies, the revival of dead fossil fuel pipelines. We've seen the reemergence of the Nessie pipeline, and now the Constitution pipeline, one that, I think the Sierra Club is very proud to have played a role in blocking in 2016, with a lot of other groups. Now that's back on the table, and the Trump administration is trying to essentially erase the 401 water quality certificate program that allowed the state of New York to deny permits for that pipeline. And then most recently, rescission of the 2009 greenhouse gas and endangerment finding, which, hasn't had an impact to date, but I think will loom large on policy moving forward. Next slide. Um, so anyway, here's an image of the yellow vest protest that Hochul so fears. And, I think the irony is that the energy prices are surging right now without the climate policies that we enacted really being the main culprit. I mean, we're talking about surges in natural gas prices. It isn't our climate policies. Even though every oil and gas pundit is quick to place the blame on these liberal policies. Next slide. Quickly, why are the energy prices so high? And certainly it is the volatile price of natural gas, the polar vortex wobble that, certainly brought in that extended cold snap, and brought us back winters that we used to have a few decades ago. But it increased gas demand and higher prices, and a significant portion of our grid still relies on natural gas, and it competes with gas as a home heating fuel. So obviously, we're going to see these price spikes. Had we enacted better policies years ago, and had more all-electric homes and had more solar capacity, we wouldn't have has had as such severe price spikes. But certainly, we have aging infrastructure, and the cost of new pipelines contributes to those costs. The managed scarcity of fossil fuel resources, nuclear subsidies, and the hidden fossil fuel entitlements. I mean, I think that is all part of our energy bill. And certainly the increased demand from AI and data centers is creating more electric scarcity. Now, certainly, it's true. One can say, and it's clear, liberal states with better climate policies tend to have higher electric costs, and some of that is because we are in the middle of paying for the transition to a renewable energy economy, and that we have better environmental controls and a commitment to clean air quality. Um, and certainly forestalling the installation of solar and wind capacity has contributed to that. Certainly having more deployable renewable energy, peak shaving opportunities from solar and geothermal, and efficiency measures will bring down energy costs over time. But the initial cost of implementing the CLCPA obviously can be steep. The affordability crisis we're experiencing is complicated, but we can at the very least blame an over reliance on fossil fuels and the volatility of natural gas prices. Hochul argues that increasing the supply of gas will bring down prices, but we know from experience that the infrastructure costs of new pipelines is a costly economic burden on ratepayers, and the rare occurrence of gas oversupply leads quickly to gas export and other market maneuvers for gas producers to control supply and keep gas prices profitable. True affordability will come with the certainty and constancy of solar, wind, geothermal, and hydropower with battery backup, where there's little to no volatility. Without subsidies, we know that distributed solar is now less expensive per kilowatt hour than gas generation. Next slide. Uh, so very quickly, and I'll try to get through these quick. We know there were a lot of uncontrollable factors that have prevented us from keeping up with the ambitions of the climate law. But there have also been some very deliberate actions on the part of the governor to forestall the laws, um, implementing the effectiveness of the climate law and achieving these goals. In 2023, the governor unsuccessfully pushed to change the greenhouse gas accounting for methane emissions from a 20-year horizon to a 10-year time frame, which would have taken pressure off compliance for pipelines, power plants, and compressor stations. This change in accounting has again been proposed in 2026. In 2024, in early 2024, the governor delayed implementation of New York's congestion pricing plan, only to reauthorize the program 6 months later with weakened provisions. Early in 2025, the governor announced the indefinite delay of the release of required regulations under CLCPA and the much anticipated cap and invest program that was to fund the clean energy transition using money from big polluters as they ratcheted down their emissions through a credit auction system. In 2025, the governor reversed previous denials of the Nessie pipeline, creating a negative climate and clean water precedent for other climate killing pipelines, like the proposed Constitution pipeline. Next slide. Sorry. In 2025, the governor suspended the enactment of the All Electric Buildings Act that would have prohibited the use of fossil fuels for heating and cooking and drying in new construction starting in 2026. I think this is a real blow. It was supposed to start this month. And in fact, we're entirely not sure how this is working. This is part of a lawsuit in which a number of industry groups tried to stop the enactment of this law. I didn't think they had a very strong case, but the governor, through negotiations, I guess agreed to a stay of the law until the lawsuit could be worked out. But we still actually haven't seen the legal documents to stop the enactment of this law. So this could be very interesting. But this is an incredibly important part of CLCPA. This is something that the Climate Action Council asked for in terms of just setting building code that no longer has gas boilers in it or oil heaters in it. And we know that these buildings are more efficient, they're healthier, they're better for the grid in the long run, and they help us meet our climate commitments. In 2025 as well, last year, in the fall, the Hochul administration also finalized the state energy plan that embodied timelines, targets, and technologies that violate the CLCPA's goals in multiple ways. And in some ways, this document is an acknowledgement that the governor doesn't anticipate that we are going to follow the climate law. Um, also in 2025, this came in a matter of weeks. The approval of the pipeline, the state energy plan, the suspension of the All Electric Buildings Act. The governor also issued permits to a dirty cryptocurrency mine, the Greenwich facility, the in the Finger Lakes, a facility that the Sierra Club and others have been fighting for years, and actually at some point got the DEC to refuse to issue them Title V air permits, saying that this facility did not comply with the climate law. This past fall, the governor reversed the DEC and issued air permits for the facility, and this is all to just mine crypto for a plant that can supply power, for a city the size of Albany, and all the climate emissions and dirty air emissions that come with us. And I think such a reversal jeopardizes the enforcement of the CLCPA. Uh, and in 2026, at a budget hearing and in multiple other venues, members of the Hochul administration indicated that proposed changes to the CLCPA involving off ramps to compliance or moving the goalposts on timing or emissions thresholds um, potentially could be coming shortly, perhaps in the budget negotiation process. Next slide. So last Thursday, there was great anticipation, certainly from the environmental community, that the governor would put the climate law rollbacks in her 30-day amendments to her executive budget. This is a process. The governor puts forward a budget. There are hearings on it. The legislature looks at it. They provide initial feedback, along with the public providing feedback, and then the 30-day amendments. And usually, this is a time when the governor makes corrections to her budget or institutes new policy. And we were pretty certain that she was going to introduce some form of rollback. And I think to our relief, there was nothing added. We were told that we're still not out of the woods, and that the administration is still concerned that the judicial order for them to release the climate law regulations by the spring of 2026 requires them to negotiate with the legislature for changes to the law, because they just simply refuse to move forward with the Cap and Invest program that they fear will be too costly to New Yorkers. But I want you all to remember the Cap and Invest program is an affordability program at its core. It requires big polluters to help finance New York's clean energy transition while they ratchet down their own emissions. Proceeds from their pollution credits, and they're all required to pay for pollution credits under a cap, and that cap is ratcheted down every year. That money is used to defray energy costs for low to middle income New Yorkers and pay for the advancement of renewable energy technologies and other climate programs. It's hard to understand the narrative that we can't afford affordability programs. We certainly know that when it comes to climate change, inaction is the most expensive option. So, what are we looking at in terms of further rollbacks from the Hochul administration? Um, I think at the top of the list is to when we talked about it at the beginning of the call is to change the global warming potential accounting from 20 years to 100 years. When looking at methane as a global warming pollutant on the 20-year time frame, it is 80 times more potent a greenhouse gas than CO2. On the 100-year time frame, it's only about 28 times more potent. By shifting the number to the less aggressive standard, it changes the perceived emissions impact of natural gas infrastructure in the short term, and it allows for more pipelines, compressor stations, gas heating, and electric generation under the climate's law compliance timeline. But when we really think about what we need to do, it's really in the next 10 years, going back to this notion of trying to prevent the Earth's climate from getting to 2 degrees Celsius and avoid those feedback loops and tipping points that then we can't reverse and then it's over. We can't afford to take the 100-year time frame. 20 years may not be enough. I mean, we really need to act in the next 10 years. Changing this number will have an incredible impact on how we pace our emissions reductions. And that kind of leads to a general notion of maybe the governor can move the goalposts and change the greenhouse gas reduction dates and targets. So, say instead of a 70% renewable energy grid by 2030, they could change that number to 50% or bump out the date to 2035. I think this could really set off a problematic precedent. There's also, the option to create an off-ramp for the Public Service Commission to exempt fossil fuel generation from the CLCPA if there are issues with affordability or reliability. And there's a docket before the PSC right now that proposes such an option. Certainly, they could propose, to continue to stall the enactment of the All Electric Buildings Act. I think that's more of an appeasement to developers that don't want to change their behavior. They want to continue what they're doing. They're very upset about that, but they may want to codify that or abolish specific CLCPA regulatory requirements. Like Cap and Invest. Um, and I think the last one, I think is maybe outside of CLCPA. CLCPA is somewhat agnostic on nuclear power, but certainly the governor is very bullish on it. And overcommitting New York State to a nuclear program comes with its own opportunity costs and significant delays. Very quickly on this point, the Sierra Club has held a long-standing opposition to nuclear energy, largely on the issue of safety and the uncertainty of long-term waste maintenance. In the State of the State address, Hochul proposed to increase the 1 gigawatt goal for new nuclear, a goal that she established, to 5 gigawatts of capacity, which could come at the cost of, more than $100 billion. And it includes several upstate pilot projects in the coming years. From the Sierra Club's perspective, pursuing nuclear technologies will slow the growth of safe renewable energy projects and commit New York to centuries of environmental risk as we will be forced to safeguard tons of additional radioactive waste. The Sierra Club knows this policy will plunge New York deeper into nuclear debt in a time frame that cannot address our zero emission needs fast enough. And we remain steadfast that the build out of solar, wind and geothermal energy infrastructure while maximizing energy storage facilities and energy efficiency programs is the only viable energy pathway forward. So how do we fight back? One, I think we can't negotiate away the climate law, and we're certainly pushing our legislative partners not to do that. New York State has a long tradition of blowing past mandates and ignoring laws, and the courts have been valuable institutions for pulling elected leaders back into compliance and on the right track. And I think keeping the climate law targets for now still makes sense, even though we know we can't achieve some of them by 2030. We may be a few years off, but we should leave room for the state to catch up. And I'm hoping that our friends in the Senate and Assembly will agree with us. From the Sierra Club's perspective, I think we have to continue our lawsuit against DEC for failing to release CLCPA regulations and the Cap and Invest program. And our intention is at the very least to reach a settlement that will accelerate the timeline of compliance and get the state to introduce Cap and Invest regulations. I mean, I think all of us, I don't think it's a well-kept secret that like congestion pricing, that Hochul delayed for 6 months until after the election. I think it was perceived that it would hurt the New York congressional delegation. Um, she reinstituted it after the election. Our sense is that she will probably introduce the Cap and Invest program after the 2026 elections as well, so that she doesn't and other lawmakers don't sort of succumb to the political liabilities of such a program. But such a program also is at least projected to generate about $3 billion to go towards energy affordability projects, and we're really hurting without it. Um, Another thing we do to fight back is to join the state legal challenges in support of offshore wind. Certainly, the governor has been good there, and she has been, pushing back against the Trump administration. But we know that there's going to be, more fights there, and that, we have to do all we can to continue building this incredibly important source of electricity. 90% of upstate energy now can be considered emissions free, although again, the largesse of that is hydro and nuclear. Um, but predominantly, the power in New York City comes from gas sources, and offshore wind is incredibly important. And I think we also have to defend the congestion pricing plan that Governor Hochul now supports, but the Trump administration has indicated that at some point they would like to roll back as well. And I just want to say that even though it's supposed to be a $15 toll, it's a $9 toll. As of, I'm trying to think where, I think as of late summer, the program is working great. It's reduced Manhattan's traffic by 11%. It's increased transit ridership. The program has significantly improved air quality. It's reduced accidents by 15%. And most importantly, it's generated about $500 million for the MTA that can all go to clean transit programs and get more people out of cars and into buses and subway cars, or into walkable communities where they don't have to commute as much. And we are pleased, again, that Governor Hochul is a champion of this program. We intend, once the dust clears, to challenge the Title V air permits for the Greenwich cryptocurrency mine. The permits haven't been issued yet, even though DEC has expressed an interest in doing so. But I think in the time being, we can certainly support some legislative actions. There is an excise tax that is proposed for crypto facilities that is going through the legislature. But we also support a 3-year moratorium on all new data centers and crypto mines in New York. And that this should give New York the time to plan around these incredibly energy consumptive facilities uh, and set renewable energy requirements for the grid. Certainly, we want to mobilize, our volunteers in Albany around any proposed legislative push, and to upend the climate law. But there's also, a great effort to reform the Public Service Commission so that our energy decision makers are more transparent and more accountable to complying with the climate law. Um, and then, lastly, I'll just say that we have been working with labor groups, with municipalities, to build thermal energy networks, battery storage facilities, distributed solar, all electric ferries, trains, buses. There's so many exciting campaigns Sierra Club volunteers are working on to advance clean energy. And I think every time we get one of these decarbonization programs going, we are really holding up uh, an excellent example of affordability outcomes. These things are always so much, more affordable in the long run than their fossil fuel counterparts that I think will benefit everyone. These are shovel-ready successes we need now to keep the momentum going on our climate progress. And I will conclude by saying that we've made great strides in the past year on building electrification and decarbonization, especially with the governor signing legislation to repeal the 100-foot rule. This is a natural gas subsidy that was adding unnecessary costs on utility bills and displacing the use of clean heat technologies. One of the big obstacles we faced weaning our homes from natural gas has been the narrative that they are coming for your stoves, which no policy to date, we've pushed has exactly said that, but it's a talking point with great potency. I myself have been enamored with the blue flame almost my entire life, that has cooked my food. But I was less enamored when I learned about the indoor air quality hazards that came with using industrial methane in the house. The Sierra Club and partners for the past few years have been testing the air quality in kitchens in several parts of the country as a means to get baseline data and reach out to our membership. I would like to introduce you to Tim Guinea, member of the Atlantic Chapter XCOM, who's embarked upon a nitrogen dioxide testing program in New York for kitchens. And I think he could use our help. And Tim, can I turn it over to you for a sec to talk about um, your testing protocol and your plan?
Should we still have this?
Should I stop sharing?
Okay.
Should I stop sharing?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Sure. Thank you, Roger. So, just really quickly, there's a bill called the Healthy Homes Right to Know Act, which is S1280B. It's a Kruger Solage bill. And what the bill does is recognizes the fact that the American public is completely unaware that all gas stoves emit four very dangerous combustion byproducts, which are benzene formaldehyde, carbon monoxide, and nitrogen dioxide. And as Roger mentioned, and inspired by work that the Sierra Club was doing down in Montgomery County, Maryland, and Washington, D.C., we're replicating a study here. Just did my 81st home test. But there are four of these little devices running around. And we're building science. And I'll mention that another group has just agreed to start doing it in Virginia. It's starting to happen in Baltimore right now. So these tests, and Illinois is doing it. So these tests are happening all over everywhere. Now, a kind of co-benefit of building the science is we've been building the science sometimes in districts where people have been slow to get on board with the legislation. And it seems to be a good nudge to legislators when they know that constituents are learning about this. So would love anybody here who has a gas stove to let me come round and test it. Testing takes about 50 minutes. And you don't have to want to know the results. Some people don't want to know the results. I don't care. It's free. People have asked that. It's don't charge you anything. And Roger's come with me, and I will just say, in terms of this thing as a kind of benefit also for the Sierra Club. I think it's extremely powerful to people who aren't connected with the environmental movement to have people showing up looking after their well-being and being kind of ambassadors that way. So it's turned into this lovely thing, but really need more data points. Would love data points in Hudson, would love some down around the Yonkers. We'd love them everywhere. So if you have interest, I put my email in the chat. Send me an email or contact Roger or Peggy or Gail, and maybe they can send it to me too. Um,
Uh,
that that's enough out of me, I think, Roger.
I'll put my email
Thanks.
in the chat if people want to contact me, but I just want to make a suggestion. What about doing the testing for elected officials, for legislators?
We're doing it, and it's been profound. One of the I won't all of it's anonymized, so I'm not going to mention a name, but we had one person we did it for who's a committee chair who we did it, and the next week she was pushing for the bill to move into her committee right away. So it's good.
And
I would
I have to say it's a really fascinating process and really to look over the course of boiling water on your stove and looking at how the emissions change over time, how the emissions change with someone opening a door. But Tim, in general, what are you finding? You're finding that predominantly everyone is almost
Yeah.
every home tested.
So we're only testing for one of the four things. So we don't know what's going on with your benzene formaldehyde, carbon monoxide. But with nitrogen dioxide, there's two numbers we look at. One is a new number from the California Air Resources Board, which is 0.027 parts per million. They have just sort of promulgated that, and it hasn't been set in stone in California yet. But we're seeing that number exceeded in 97% of the homes that we're testing. That's their sort of health protective number. The other number is a World Health Organization number, zero point 0.1 parts per million for outdoor air pollution. We're seeing that number exceeded in about 70% of the homes we're testing. And there are I mean, I could talk endlessly, but I'm not going to because this is a lot of people here. There are really big health repercussions involved in that. And if you have me come to your house, I can not only bum you out with what your numbers look like, but I can also fill you in on the health repercussions while I'm there, or not, or I can not tell you anything.
I'd love to volunteer our state legislators, especially Pat Carroll, Assemblyman. He has four children, so I feel like it would really make an impact there. Um,
Peggy, do we want to hit some of the questions in the
yeah,
chat?
sure. So there was one question I took from the chat. So Roger, you're ready for questions? Was there anything?
Sure.
Okay. So one question is it practical for state government, I guess it is, to enforce greenhouse gas emissions with cost shared pollution control technologies implemented at fossil fuel powered electricity plants? I'm not sure I understand that question, but is that
Boy, I would have to unpack that. I mean, I will say that, the state of New York is now undertaking sort of a slight overhaul of Reggie, and that I think certainly the regional greenhouse gas initiative, and I'm sorry, I don't remember how many states at this point because Pennsylvania keeps dipping in and out, but I think using a regional approach is certainly a lot more helpful, and that we haven't abandoned Reggie. But I think in terms of ratcheting down total emissions beyond the electric grid, we still need a mechanism for transportation and buildings. So we'd love other states to join us, but at this point, I think we have no choice but to act alone, if
so
that's the
Larry?
question.
Larry, I see, but I just wanted to say, so there's a request to talk about the politics of the legislature. How do we move all of this? And I sort of add to that question. I know that Carl Hastie has been sort of the roadblock for years. I don't know. So do you want to talk about the politics of how do we
Yeah,
make
I mean,
politics?
I think very quickly it's an election year and that there are a lot of primaries. There's a lot of pressure to do these rollbacks, and I think that's our primary focus right now is to make sure we don't get any more rollbacks. I think the vehicle to do it is in the budget, but I think the governor this year, for her own sake, and I think both Stuart Cousins and Hasty, all will hold an on-time budget at a premium. We know Hochul has allowed the budget to go really long, overdue in the past few years. I have a feeling this year it won't happen that way, and that this may be too contentious to do. Both, even though Hasty's been a bit of a problem on environmental issues, did sort of suggest at the beginning of the year, and he was very proud of his role. I mean, he was the first house, he shepherded the first iteration of the climate law through. I think, I could see them holding firm, and they said they didn't have an appetite to change the law. We can all, you never know what's being dangled in front of them, or what kind of tactics are being used. But I think that Andrea Stewart Cousins has shown exceptional climate leadership, and I think she alone maybe can stop this from happening. But because it is an election year, I think they're also going to be very hesitant to do anything bold, both positive and negative.
Hmm. Larry, do you want to unmute?
Yeah, I'm a senior that does not pay New York State tax. I wanted to purchase my solar panels, but it turns out that I could not get the credit because it's a tax credit.
Oh, interesting.
I think there can be two changes made, one in the finance law and one perhaps in NYSERDA. And I'm wondering how one goes about starting a change in a law like that.
I think we are working on that so that it is no longer a tax credit, but it can be a rebate. And that because, for years the solar tax credit wasn't really reaching middle and lower income people because they didn't make enough to have that as a beneficial tax break. It was a program to subsidize the rich getting solar panels. So there is legislation that we are pushing and hopefully maybe can enact this year, that can do just that. And we can send the bill numbers. Gail, I don't know
I
if
just
you
put the
wanted to
bill
comment on that.
numbers, I just put the bill numbers in the chat because that's exactly one of the bills we're working on. It's a Harcum Walker bill, S 2626, A 1373A.
And Gail Pisha is the extraordinary legislative chair for the Sierra Club in New York, and has such an amazing memory for everything that's going on legislatively. So thank you, Gail, for all your work.
So I have a question. I'm going to ask the question that I asked you before the meeting started, which is to me a really important question. To what extent is there the ability to I won't say do we have, because clearly we don't have it yet, but to what extent is there, could we have enough renewable energy capacity, including battery storage and the transmission and distribution, etc., to rely to make that transition to renewable energy and off gas and off maybe eventually off nuclear? So let's just take gas in the short run. To what extent, can we do it on renewable energy alone?
Yeah, I think it's an excellent question. I think we haven't necessarily gone far enough to actually try. And I think that it's an important question, and it's one that lawmakers are asking themselves, but we don't necessarily see the effort to even get to half renewables, or to offset gas. But we have plenty of physicists and planners that say this is possible. We can do it without nuclear. And looking at the kinds of subsidies we're willing to put into nuclear, we can put into various innovative forms of battery storage for base load and hydro and wind and solar and efficiency. Um, I believe, and I think our experts believe we can do this. But we also have a public service commission and leadership right now that simply believe we cannot. And instead of at least striving to try to meet these goals, there's been kind of a stoppage, and that they are pivoting on I think less viable pathways forward. But it's a complicated question, Peggy, and I think an entire series can be done on each sector on how we can achieve that. But I try to read. I mean, I went off grid, in 2007 and raised a family and with only solar and batteries. And it was difficult and it was a lot of challenges, but we were able to do it until we lost battery capacity 10 years later and I went on the grid. But I think about this all the time. I don't have a very solid definitive answer, but I think we believe in the experts we want to believe in. Tim, I see your hand up. I don't know if
Yeah, I just wanted to kick in a quick thing. And I'm not trying to drop a name, but I wasn't smart enough to come up with this. I did an event with Bill McKibben, and Bill looked at the build out of solar in China. We have to get to 30 gigs by 2030, I think is the number. I'm maybe getting that off. But looking at the deployment in China, they could do it in 6 days. So to me, and look, I know very different system of government, obviously, but I do think that there's something about that's instructive when somebody's saying, no, we can't. And I'll just toss this out because I've been using it a lot lately. I think there's something politically helpful to saying, don't align yourself with the Trump administration on renewables. Don't align yourself with him on getting rid of the CLCPA. I think that messaging in the year of an election is powerful and are words we should use.
That's
excellent.
that's a great point. Yeah. Jane?
Yeah, just quickly to the question of can we actually get to the degree of renewables that are required? I just want to make a side issue that you actually, Roger, did mention. To do it, we really need to have a better argument and a better infrastructure to ward off that constantly that you hear it's unreliable. It doesn't last. You can't depend on solar. It's not out at night. The wind doesn't always blow. With regard to that, in order to really do the transition, one needs to have some energy storage of some sort. And new energy storage methods and materials are coming along daily, some of which can run for 100 hours and some of which are very short term. They run for about 4 hours. But there's so much out there, like everything else, that requires a mixture on the grid. It also requires some updating of the grid, like for those people in downstate New York, the new New York Repel or Repel New York rather, it's to try to put in additional electric lines to balance out where energy is confined and make sure we all have it available to us. So it's not just us individually, but rather a large scale with battery energy storage and other forms of calming the grid, if you wish, to make sure that certain pockets don't get closed out.
How about demand response and energy efficiency also?
Mhm.
Yeah. I just finished a book called Overshoot, in which he talks. I really recommend it. Roger, I'll send you the authors, but they basically make the case that that the elites have the elected officials, even the scientists, many of them have accepted that we are flying past that 1.5 degrees Celsius. We're just not doing it. And they're sort of telling themselves we're going to bring it down once we have the technological fixes. We'll do it with carbon capture and storage and geoengineering. So that allows us to just fly past them right now. So, Roger, do you want to say anything just briefly about those two options?
No, I mean, I think that that's horrifying. I mean, I mean, thinking, looking at the sheer metric tons that can come out of melting permafrost. I don't think any amount of carbon capture storage can really, work against that. I mean, we would be hoping for some other cataclysm to happen to sort of reduce the greenhouse gas effect. That's startling. I've heard of the book. I'd love to read it. Love to have the time to read more, but But yeah, no, I mean, I think that's why, we need global action. But again, New York, we are a leader and we're the 10th largest economy in the world. And that we have demonstrated that when we act, others follow. And I think that that's why there's more responsibility on our shoulders.
Other questions for Roger?
They don't have to be for me necessarily. I mean, I'd love to get feedback. I'd love to hear what people are thinking. We've got stellar people here like Mana Joe Green.
Nana, did you want?
Mana.
And they have to unmute.
Yeah.
I thought I unmuted, sorry. I want to say that Mark Z. Jacobson has done a study, I think for every state in the union, but definitely for New York, that spells out how we can transition to a renewable energy economy with storage and efficiency. And we're doing a series of forums. I put them in the chat, and there is one coming up. Catherine Skopik is organizing it for the week of Earth Day. I don't have a specific date yet, but we've already done two, and we're doing a third one that specifies how we can achieve that. And as was pointed out, the investing in nuclear is an opportunity cost because it's taking money that should be going into actively implementing. And yes, there are new technologies in the particularly in battery storage, but it absolutely can be done. It's the fastest, it's the least costly, it's the safest, and it doesn't generate nuclear waste that has to be stored and exposes communities to radioactive isotopes for generations. So I think anyway, please follow that. We absolutely can do it. And we are planning a forum specifically on that question with
Okay.
experts that'll plan that.
Great. Marilyn?
Yes, thank you. Thank
Thanks.
you. Roger, in your opinion, what's the most effective tactic that grassroots groups can do? How should we proceed to help you with all the things that you've outlined?
Oh, I mean, I sort of always think there's an ecosystem approach. I mean, there's so many different things, different groups can do. But I think in this critical point, I mean, the budget is due April 1st. I mean, just reaching out to those that represent you, Senate and Assembly, and just asking them, don't mess with the climate law. Keep the climate law as is, no rollbacks. And in fact, we're really concerned we're not on track. And there are plenty of other bills that we can get done this year that can help us keep on track. I think that that's essential to start with in the short term. And I apologize, I don't have an action alert handy, but we will have one shortly that will go out to our legislators and the governor on this issue.
And if I could make a request, please send it out to the members so that we can mobilize the whatever it is, 38,000 members to
Sure.
make those calls. Yeah. Martha?
Yeah, in terms of sort of amplifying individual voices, I'm in Tompkins County. And we have a climate and sustainable energy board that advises the legislature. Tomorrow we'll be considering a resolution that uh, asks our county legislature to weigh in on like half a dozen climate issues. Does that help? I mean, do they look at anything beyond the title? Do they even look at the title?
I think it does help. And I sometimes when we have problems moving things to the legislature, we go back to the cities, the counties, we get county resolutions, we get city laws passed, and that all amplifies. And Martha, you know that from the fracking fight. You were instrumental as a local elected official, and I'm sort of curious. I mean, you're in Ithaca in something of a political bubble, but do you feel like there's a shift coming that could be helpful to us? I mean, just in your own political movements.
Well, our legislature had a big shift in this past election, and we now have 8 of 16 legislators are new, and I would say most of them are seriously interested in environmental issues. Irene
Right.
Weiser is one of them.
She's wonderful.
Yeah, so she's got a real posse there on the legislature. If I can send, who should I send our resolution to? Because
I'd
anybody.
love to see it.
Okay, is there an email that we can use?
Yeah, I can put it in the chat.
Is
Or you can send it to me.
Can that resolution be
Yeah.
shared with everyone? That would be great.
Okay, you bet. Thanks.
I'm putting my email in so you can,
Yeah, if you send it to Peggy, she can
yeah,
send it out in the
Rockland Climate, and then I can forward it. Yeah.
follow
Okay. I'm sure emails are somewhere in the chat if you could, but if you could
Oh,
put them in
I
again.
just put it back in.
Great. Thank you.
Marilyn and then David.
P.S. My Zoom is misbehaving and cut me off. I had a follow-up question
Yeah,
for
sure.
Roger. My legislators are Peter Harcum and Dana Levenberg, who are very
Wow.
much in favor of, yes, exactly. They're wonderful. So I can't really lobby them anymore. They know what the story is. They're working
Sure.
for renewables and everything. So what am I left with?
It's a good conundrum, but I mean you are in an area with still, a lot of powerful lawmakers. I think, as good as Andrea Stewart Cousins is, she still needs to hear from, folks in at least near her constituency. Um, and I mean, there's so many other things. I mean, we're trying to get thermal energy networks advanced in various municipalities as well. And there's a wonderful project in Yonkers. I'm hoping we can get off the ground. I can send you more information about it, but it needs public support because, I think for the state to make these expenditures, they want to be sure the public wants it. We can talk offline, Marilyn, but I don't know what to say when you're blessed with such insightful lawmakers. Ace case.
David, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Great job, Roger. Great job, everybody. The question was raised, what can we do? Even below the state level, it's becoming really apparent. I think Roger would confirm that the battery energy storage question is going to address a bottleneck both on our grid and in the march towards sustainability. Town boards are hearing these projects all around our area, and I've attended a couple in Ulster and in Saugerties, and it's really clear to me that the pitchfork and torch crowd, the mob is out. The NIMBY mob is out. We could really use Sierra Club members showing up virtually if you must, but I think in person to address the planning and the town boards to speak up for the battery energy storage and how important this is. And I think Sierra Club has a unique opportunity, a unique moral authority to address this. And I just encourage everybody to show up at the local town, at the local level, and support the battery energy storage here in the Hudson Valley. Thanks.
That's great, David. Thank you.
Ellen?
Someone's conducting a phone conversation over this Zoom. Could everyone please check that you're muted? That's all I have to say right now.
Okay. I don't know who it
I'll
is.
Someone has a radio on.
I'll just chime in and say I'm running for town council. So, and Peggy and I were just talking about what towns can do, for the environment. So that was helpful. Thank you about the
Yeah, so could we can
battery
talk about the
storage.
battery
Yeah,
storage issue.
absolutely.
Yeah, and actually Sierra Club had an excellent speaker, I don't know, maybe a month ago about this issue. Really, just maybe we can talk about ways to bring him to more communities or something. Roger, I want to thank you. This was really excellent. Everybody, we're going to have just a few quick announcements after this, but thank you. This was really so informative and just excellent. I know I'm gonna be definitely watching it again because there was a lot in it. There was a lot of content in it. So
It's
thank
the
you very
beginning of a
much.
conversation, but we have a lot to push back against, and we have a
Mhm.
lot of progress to make still.
Can we get the chat saved and sent to everybody?
Um, okay. Let's take a look to make sure that there's everything is kind of okay in the chat. But yeah, I mean, think we definitely should be able to send out the recording to everybody. We also have a YouTube, we have a channel. George, I don't know if you want to say anything
Uh,
about it. Yeah.
the way we will handle the video of the event and the chat is that we will post both of them on our website under events. We have an events page on our website that has upcoming events at the top and then past events further down. So this event will be under past events, and both the chat and the video will be there.
And we'll also we can send out the link to the recording to everybody who registered also.
For the chat, if you look at the top in the chat box itself, you'll see three dots. It says public meeting rollbacks of New York State climate, then there's three dots. If you click the three dots, you'll see save chat comes up, so each person can do it themselves.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and it goes into a
Did
Zoom
not know
folder.
about that.
And then it'll appear on your desktop in a and you can
Zoom
just
folder.
write what you want so you know what it is.
Or it goes into your documents file, but it should go into a Zoom file.
Each person is different.
It's different, right?
Okay. Thank you so much, Roger. This was just excellent. Really.
And Roger, you're welcome to stay on and listen to the rest of the program. Go ahead,
Jackie, I
Becky.
think you wanted to announce a couple of things.
Yes, well, I'd like to, and especially since Roger's here. And Roger, that was just a great rundown. I did take a couple of screenshots of your slideshow there to really get an idea of all the things that you are working on that are positive that we can push towards. Um, so I wanted to let everyone know that, and George Klein has been very helpful with this, that we are doing something against nuclear power in New York State. Susan Van Dulsen and Mary Finneran and I put together something called Facts, the Facts, FACTS, because facts matter, to Governor Hochul regarding her stance on nuclear power. And so this week we've just completed the 6th page. So we're going to be starting again with new facts. But if anyone wants to do that, it's a very simple thing. It's done on your computer or on your phone, and it's a free fax program, and it goes right to the governor. And we have letters that we've written that you can just copy and then paste into the text box to send your fax. It's very simple. It works well. And it's up on the Sierra Lower Hudson Group website. There's a big picture of Governor Hochul on a nuclear stack, and then underneath it is kind of an update on nuclear energy in New York State of what she's proposing, and leads you right into the Facts program. So I'd love it for people to do it. It's really important to just be continually sending her faxes. Phone calls don't really count. And so faxes must be delivered to her. So that's why we picked doing this. I'd also like to say that there's this big push called, it was going to be called Deadline Hochul, where a lot of groups were going to be up in Albany on April 18th. And that particular push has been actually changed. We're hoping to be joining with lots of other people who are going to be in Albany on a lobby day on March 25th. So I'm asking people to maybe save the date, because this is going to be a rally to save the climate law, a rally in defense of the climate law. And there are just so many groups involved in this, and you can stand with faith leaders, you can stand with indigenous people, you can stand with anti-nuclear, you can stand with anti-pipelines, you can stand pro-wind and pro-geothermal. So it's just going to be a great gathering. I'm not sure about transportation yet, but I may know.
Okay,
That's it.
Jackie, okay, great. So Jackie, if you want to send me a link, I can include that in the follow-up email to everybody.
Okay, I'll probably get that in another week or so,
Okay.
but I'll definitely, I hope that we can go up there en masse. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments before we stop? I just want to remind everybody, Thursday, March 12th, we're going to be having a discussion of the steeply declining bird population. I'm sure Roger could say something about that. I'm sure he knows about that. It's just really the crisis of biodiversity, loss of biodiversity and extinctions is as serious as it's frightening to me as the climate crisis. Obviously, they're somewhat related, but they're not the same. Roger, did you want to say a word about that?
I'm not prepared, although it breaks my heart. Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I will definitely join.
Okay, so that's Thursday, March 12th, and it's going to be somebody from the New York City Bird Alliance. I believe he's also a professor at Columbia, and he'll be speaking about what's happening to the bird population and also things that we can do about it. Marilyn?
Yes, you had mentioned that people might like to hear something about Alliance for Nuclear Free New York.
Go for it.
They're
Okay.
very, very active in Albany. Jackie's part of that coalition, and Anne Raby, she got an amazing grant that allowed her to bring in people from Vogtle, the power plant in Georgia, and she's been lobbying our individual legislators. And that group is doing a lot. I mean, I just wanted you to know that they're doing letters, they're doing petitions, and are very active right in the nitty gritty part of what has to be done in Albany. And they're seeing all of the different lobbyists. And some of the people, some of the legislators that they talked with seem very amenable to hearing from people from Georgia who went through Vogtle and are telling them our electricity rates are some of the highest in the country, and it's because of the expense of building this power plant, which is what our legislators need to hear in regard to Vogtle's proposal.
Very powerful. Barbara, I'm sorry. Apparently, I didn't see your hand up because it's yellow against a yellow background.
That's okay. Is there any way I can get on your email list?
Absolutely.
Should I put my email in the chat?
Sure.
And I just want to add one more thing, is that if we are going to change people's, bring people information, we've got to cross what I call class, ethnic, and cultural boundaries and create relationships in communities that are different from us, be invited in, and listen, and then give people information that is appropriate to that community. This is a perspective I have, and storytelling is a marvelous way of doing that. Up here in Ithaca, I've had a lot of people in the single payer health movement. They're not interested. So anyway, that's my 10 cents since it's inflation.
Yeah, I think I'm guessing that all of us agree, but the question is how to do that.
Right, right. Well, I do have a storytelling workshop. If anybody is interested, I'd be happy to share.
Okay.
I'll put that in the chat. I'll hurry up.
Sounds good. Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad I chose to come to this over something else. And Margaret Riley was the one who I got an email from. So this was wonderful.
It's like it passed around. Michael, I know you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. With regard to renewable energy projects at the county level, is it practical to attempt to have the renewable energy projects at the emergency management service facilities so that the renewable energy will power the EMS services and facilities during our oncoming emergencies and disasters.
I don't know that I feel qualified to answer that. Meta, do you feel qualified to answer whether that would be sufficient?
Well, I can give a direct example. Here in Ulster County, they're building a new countywide emergency communication center, and it will be not only generate all of its own electricity, but it will have battery storage so that it can become a microgrid if the grid goes down. And you're spot on. Those should be the very first places that solar with storage is installed on municipal properties. Also, there's a fire station just up the road, and that whole corridor between the high school and the landfill in New Paltz is in the process of becoming a renewable energy corridor that also can, if the grid goes down, they can microgrid off. And there's a whole lot of positive information about that we'll be sharing.
Yeah, I know. I would love to see that. We're talking in Rockland County about what more could be done, and that would be great. That's Manna, you continue to lead us.
Thank you.
And maybe I can include, if you send me a link, Manna, to some of the information, maybe we can include that also in the follow-up email. So
I'll do that, Peggy.
Okay, I want to let people go, unless there's any other burning questions or comments. Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you most of all, Roger. This was really excellent.
Thank you so much,
Night,
everybody. And keep
Thanks for
warm. Keep warm and don't slip.
Thank you, everyone.
They don't print.
Everyone stay safe.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Peggy, and
Facts
thank you,
matter.
Roger.
Everybody.
Oh, so true. Bye for now.
Okay.
Bye-bye.